This guy, I've got a function sine, and then they're looking for the limit, and this looks like a difference quotient. The only issue I catch on to is this is the alternate form, so it's the limit of the difference quotient, um, and then it's evaluated at 2 pi, so that means the answer is going to be numerical, as you can see by the choices. It's not going to be a function. So this limit of the difference quotient means we want to find the derivative. The answer to this limit will be the derivative, but it won't be the function. I then have to plug 2 pi into my derivative. So instead of doing the limit, I can do the shortcut. So I would do the derivative of sine is cosine and then plug in 2 pi. There is, however, one last catch to this one. That's typically how this goes, except what I notice is my difference quotient is mixed up in the numerator. It's supposed to be, in this alternative form, it's supposed to be f of x minus f of a, and it looks like we have f of a minus f of x in the numerator. And you can't switch them around like with slope. You know, when you do y2 minus y1, it has to be x2 minus x1. So in other words, the x needs to go with the x in our subtraction. We can't mix them up with the y's and then do them reverse with the x's. So what we're going to do is we want to switch around this subtraction up top here. And the easiest way to do that is to factor out a -1. That would make this a -2 pi and make that a positive f of x. And then I could switch them. So if I factor out a -1 and then by properties of limits, pull the -1 out. So I'll have -1 times the limit, and then these two would be switched. It would now be f of x minus f of 2 pi, and that's our alternate form of the derivative. And we just have to remember that after we calculate that limit, we have to multiply it by the -1 because we've factored a -1 out of the top and by properties pulled it out. So I got -1 times this limit, but of course the top would be switched. So that limit represents, as I said, the derivative of sine, but with 2 pi plugged in. So I'm not going to do any limit. I'm just going to do the shortcut. The derivative of sine is cosine. And then if I plug in 2 pi, cosine of 2 pi is 1. But then I have that -1 that I factored outside the limit. So I've got -1 times the answer of my limit, which is 1. So the answer will be -1 here because I have my -1 times 1.